Hey folks, Nathan here from Star Wars Timeline Gold, from Star Wars Beyond the Films, and from Cloud City Casino, the latter two of which are podcasts over at StarWarsReport.com, bringing you a look at more Fantasy Flight Games Star Wars materials. This particular video, think of it kind of as a hybrid of an unboxing and a content overview for Star Wars Legion, very much like I've done in the past with other games, only this one will need to be a little bit more in-depth. This will include some information about my perceptions of the game initially, why I perceived it that way, why others have perceived it that way, and where some of the concerns have lied. For those who have listened to the most recent episode of Cloud City Casino, you may find it kind of funny, but outside of that context, this should be something that will help those who are wondering what's in the box for Star Wars Legion. We are going to look here at the core box for Legion. That is this. We are also going to be looking briefly at the dice pack and at the movement tools and range ruler pack as well in terms of what they cost, what the value is there. I do have the first wave of expansions on the way to me. They did not actually ship until the same day that this arrived, and I didn't want to wait to at least start looking at Legion. Now, a couple of quick thoughts before we get started here. Understand that this is a video specifically designed for people who are brand new to this type of game. No Warhammer or any type of that kind of background, who maybe have picked up Imperial Assault or X-Wing or Armada, some of the other miniatures games for Fantasy Flight Games that are very different from this actual product here. People whose knowledge about the game predominantly comes from the different articles put up on Fantasy Flight Games' own website, who perhaps are picking it up because they're thinking, hey, cool, it's a new Star Wars game, not, hey, cool, it's a new miniatures combat game in the vein of Warhammer. This is for all of us newbies out here like me. So for those who are going to make comments like, oh, well, you should have known this, or duh, this or that, because I know this from Warhammer or whatever, understand this video is not designed for you, and if those are your comments, this really isn't the place for you. There will be plenty of other websites and plenty of other YouTube channels doing detailed breakdowns for those who are familiar with this type of wargaming. This is specifically for those who are not. So let me first say that this is your core set. This is your starter box. And this runs about $90 retail. You can get it on places like Miniature Market right now for about $81 plus shipping, so it still evens out. So about $90 here for the set. And if you look on the back, it clarifies something that was not really clarified very well by Fantasy Flight prior to about 3 weeks before launch. And that is right here where it says, customize and paint your miniatures. This box contains unpainted miniatures that require assembly. One of the big issues that I had looking at this game was how do you justify the price of this game relative to the price of pieces for, say, Imperial Assault? They're both miniature-based games, they're both ground-based games, what's the difference? And how do those compare to, say, painted miniatures for X-Wing or for Armada, whereas Imperial Assault is unpainted? And it was my impression, based on the way that this was marketed, that we were looking at painted miniatures. Even though it felt a little weird to have a game that plays kind of like Warhammer, have painted miniatures out of the box. I mean, I'm someone who worked in a comic shop and game shop for years when I was in college, and we had a heck of a time with just keeping paints and miniatures in stock for miniature games, because people would come in and buy like Warhammer 40K kind of stuff, and they would go through and they'd be all excited about painting them, bring in their special customized figures. So it seemed a little weird that they would be painted. But unless you read the original announcement frequently asked questions about the game, or you read some of the post-Gen Con reviews from this year, or you wind up checking out some of the newer videos that are being put out by Fantasy Flight and little news bites from Fantasy Flight within about the last 3 weeks prior to official launch here near the end of March 2018, you probably would have thought these were painted miniatures also, because those are really the only places they talked about them being unpainted, and every single news bite, every bit of coverage, every announcement, every focus on a product in between those, that early one and the newest news bites, always showed fully painted miniatures, never once mentioning that they were unpainted, never once showing us unpainted minis. So there's a lot of confusion. Are they painted? Are they not? Is the painting somehow tied into why they cost more? The answer is they are unpainted. No, there's not a painting aspect that plays into the price. The price is more of the fact that this is aiming for a Warhammer type audience, and the price that that audience tends to be willing to spend on new minis, rather than, say, being able to make a price comparison in terms of production costs between, say, this and Imperial Assault, or this and X-Wing or Armada. So keep that in mind. Unpainted miniatures, yes, they're more expensive. It's because of the type of game it is and the market they're going after, not specific to what's in the box. Speaking of what's in the box, before we actually look at specific contents, I'm going to pull them out as they're packaged. So we have our little booklet here talking about different products. We have our Learn to Play guide. There's a much larger full set of rules that are not included in the box. You have to download them from Fantasy Flight's website. But the Learn to Play booklet is about 30 pages long as it is. You have all of your tokens here, and then lots and lots of little packages of pieces before you start putting them together. There's your barricade type things there. Your dice, of course, duplicated within that dice pack. Pieces of minis, and pieces of minis, piece of minis. And yes, some of the minis that you're getting in here are the same ones that you're going to be able to get in those expansions. You'll just have more of them. Lots of minis in here. Some pieces. And eventually we're getting down to our packages here of cards. Okay, so let's talk tokens here. We have 6 deployment markers. That's your little L-shaped thing here. We have 2 commander tokens. That's the ones there with a little yellow symbol on it. We have a proof of purchase. And we have a round counter. Not because it is round, but because it counts rounds. Does that make sense? Boy, I hope it does. We have objective tokens. 6 of those. The top 3 are one side. The bottom 3 are showing the opposite side. We then have 6 condition tokens. Notice it says there, based on the dots, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but each one on the back, whoopsie, is going to look the same there. We then have our tokens that are supposed to identify our units, so 18 unit ID tokens. Each one has a black side and a white side, so to speak. So it's basically 2 identical sets of 1 through 9 there. We have 3 different vehicle damage tokens. We have 12 victory tokens, one side Imperial, one side Rebel for all of those. We have a total of 8 order tokens, right? There are your 3 different order types, 2 of the one. You flip it over, either Rebel or Imperial on either side. Now, for the sake of clarification here, the triangle-looking one, that is for the core. Then your commander is the one with that symbol there. Again, it's the same one that's on the commander token over here, of course. And then you have your support there on the bottom right. And then when it comes to those vehicle damage tokens, I mentioned how there are 3 different ones here. That top left one is just damaged. Then the one there that looks kind of like ammunition that's messed up is weapon destroyed. And then the one there that's kind of like the arrow that's all busted up, that is the disabled token. Continuing our way back across here, we have 6 dodge tokens, 6 standby tokens, 6 aim tokens, 4 panic tokens, 2 ion tokens, 4 tokens here representing wounds of value 3, 8 there representing wounds of value 1, so basically 12 wound tokens. And then over here we have our 10 so-called suppression tokens. So lots of tokens to be accounted for, but that's typical in a game like this. Certainly not nearly as many as you might have in some other games. We have our 15 dice here, right? So 6-sided and 8-sided. Essentially sets here of white of each, red of each, and black. This relates to attacking and defending. And then as far as your symbols go, you've got your block symbol, which I actually have upside down here. That's your block symbol there. This is going to be your defense surge. And then we have blank. We have an attack surge. Notice they look a little bit different there, the 2 surges. Then you have your hit and critical icons there. And they just kind of work their way across the different types. How many of each symbol and what symbols there are depends on which dice you're looking at. But 15 dice, right? 3 6-sided white, 3 8-sided white, 3 6-sided red, 3 8-sided red, 3 8-sided black. For the record, if you want a second set, and yes, you're probably going to want them, this is the exact same count and type of dice, as expected, that can be found in the Star Wars Legion dice pack. The dice pack is $15. We have a total of 35 upgrade cards. Okay. For the grenades type, we just have 4 copies of concussion grenades. Then up here, we have the gear type, 4 of the same thing again, targeting scopes. Then over here, we have the comms upgrade long-range comm link, but only 2 of these. For the personnel upgrade type, we have 2 copies of Stormtrooper and 2 copies of Rebel Trooper. For the heavy weapon upgrade type, we have 2 of each for DLT-19 Stormtrooper, HH-12 Stormtrooper, Z-6 Trooper, and MPL-57 Ion Trooper. For the hardpoint upgrade type, we have the ATRT Rotary Blaster, the ATRT Laser Cannon, and the ATRT Flamethrower. And then we have quite a few for the Force. We have Jedi Mind Trick, Force Choke, 2 copies of Force Push, 2 copies of Force Reflexes, 2 copies of Battle Meditation, and 2 copies of Saber Throw. We have 8 unit cards in the core set. The ATRT, Rebel Troopers ×2, and Luke Skywalker. Then Darth Vader, Stormtroopers ×2, and these 74Z speeder bikes. And notice these are double-sided. If there are any weapon keywords, like there aren't on Rebel Troopers but are for the ATRT, that's on one side, and all your other necessary information is on the reverse. Then for your single-sided large cards, we have a combination here for our battle decks of deployment, objective, and condition cards. And we also have our command cards. We'll look at these individually. Deployment cards are Battle Lines, Major Offensive, Disarray, and the Long March. Then our objective cards for this set are Intercept the Transmissions, Key Positions, Recover the Supplies, and Breakthrough. Then our condition cards are Clear Conditions, Hostile Environment, Rapid Reinforcements, and Limited Visibility. For command cards, there are 14. We have Standing Orders ×2, Push ×2, Assault ×2, and Ambush ×2. And then for Luke Skywalker, we have Son of Skywalker, My Ally is the Force, and Return of the Jedi. And then for Darth Vader, we have Implacable, New Ways to Motivate Them, and Master of Evil. We then have our Range Ruler and Movement Tools. Range Ruler is made up of 4 interconnecting plastic pieces. And then here are our movement tools for speed 3, 2, and 1. And hey, if you want another set of these, they'll sell you another whole set of these for $15 also. But now it's time for the good stuff. Time for the minis. Keep in mind that these are going to have to be assembled and you are expected to use super glue. The bases are not automatically attached to the figures and there are no prongs, okay? So you're going to put the arms on our little Rebel Trooper guy here, and then you're expected then to take his flat feet and super glue them to a Rebel base. No pun intended there. So this is definitely an assembly required thing, and yes, they expect you to have super glue on hand. And before somebody gripes and says that I said super glue instead of some other kind of glue, look at the instructions here. Players must use glue to attach the miniatures to their bases and attach some parts together securely. We recommend super glue to assemble these miniatures quickly. Super glue. Players should read all safety instructions, including with any glue or other hobby materials they choose, blah, blah, blah. But notice there, it specifies super glue, hence why I said super glue. I'm not sure if that's what I'll actually use, but that's what it says. I'm not going to bother to do that right now. I just want to show you the minis. So here are your Rebel Troopers. Okay, these are figures 10 through 16 of the product line here. SWL_00 whatever. Notice that for the most part, for that top row, it's just the body and then you attach the arms. The bottom row here, generally they come in 3 or 4 pieces that you need to put together before you put any of these on their bases. Here's our various Stormtrooper versions here. Again, 7 different ones, running us from product number 3 through 9. Now your biker scouts, they actually can't be put together without using the glue and everything. You can't even start really putting these together because you're not dealing with little spots and prongs for the most part. And apparently I get to contact Fantasy Flight because I was given 2 of the same arm for this dude, so he apparently doesn't have a right arm right now. Fun. But yes, you have to put all these teeny tiny pieces together to make your biker scouts, but there are 2 different molds of one. One that's got the guy kind of reaching out with his weapon, the other one with both hands. Once I have 2 of the correct arms, one who has both hands on the controls. Excuse me, I guess I should say that these are 17 and 18 from a product listing standpoint. Those, by the way, use the bigger base, and the one that was pointing the gun is actually referred to just as a 74Z speeder bike, whereas the one that I have that's got the screwed up arm is considered the speeder bike unit leader. Then here's a partially put together AT-RT. Notice you'll have your trooper that sits on top of it. There is another handle for his other hand. You do have to attach the little antennas there with super glue. You got your 3 weapon options, the laser cannon, the flamethrower, and the rotary blaster. And there is its base. A lot of attention to detail though, little teeny tiny pistons you have to attach separately, connecting the legs to the body and so forth there. This is product 19, whereas Luke and Vader are 1 and 2. And here's Luke, basically put together. Vader, partway put together, though his other arm really won't stay unless you super glue the thing in this case. But again, with just the regular base types, these are our special hero and villain for this package. So there we have it. For now, that's all I'm going to show because I've got to put all these together and glue the living hell out of them before I can actually use them to try playing the game. I would note here we're getting a pretty decent amount of stuff within the packaging. It is equivalent, I would say, to picking up, say, the core set of Imperial Assault. Again, this is not something that is a grid-based map system. It is a much more free-form type of warfare game, again, much like, say, a Warhammer or something like that. Bear in mind, again, you are going to need to put together your pieces, including some teeny tiny pieces. Not all the pieces will have specific prongs for where to put them, so you're going to need to get really good with precision super gluing. And if you're going to have painted miniatures, you're going to need to either farm that out or get good, so to speak, at painting miniatures. For me, mine will forever be unpainted. But I'm going to still need to assemble them sometime in the near future here. So if you're looking to get into something that really, for someone who just played Imperial Assault or X-Wing or Armada, may kind of be a little bit above our heads, maybe sort of jumping into the deep end, Star Wars Legion is out there. Again, this is the core set running $90. We looked at the dice pack. If you want to get an extra set of those for $15, you can get an extra set of the ruler and movement tools for another $15. Thankfully, all those can be found at a discount online. And yes, we'll be taking a look at the first wave of expansions when they arrive. As I said, they're already in the mail to me as we speak. Wow, I really jumped in the deep end this time. But hopefully, a little bit about how this product differs from the other ones, and that look at our content, sort of a content overview there, will help others who are in the same position as me decide whether or not this is the game they want to jump into, whether that's the deep end for them or not.